right, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you are at our New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives monthly meeting. Today is Veterans Day, November 11th, and I have some veteran-specific resources that I want to share with you all. But I want to introduce Senator Julia Salazar. She is a Democrat in the 18th District. She is the chair for the Committee on Crime Victims, and something else, one more word.
Corrections, that's right.
Corrections. And she is the sponsor for S 3503 or 5303? 3503? Man.
It is S5303. You got it.
5303, okay. And which is one of the bills that are currently being considered to help provide access to psilocybin-containing mushrooms. And we would, yeah, if you want to give us a little bit about, how you got interested in this and why you're supporting access, and if you want to, any overlap between the committee that you chair, which I think there must be, and anything like that. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me to join you all this evening. I'm Senator Julia Salazar. The district that I represent in New York includes all of Bushwick, Williamsburg, where I live, Cypress Hills, East New York, and a part of Ridgewood, Queens, in the state Senate. And I chair the Crime Victims, Crime and Correction Committee, which includes really working a lot with people who are currently or formerly incarcerated and their families, people who have been impacted not only by the criminal legal system, but particularly by time in jail and prison. And that, I think, it's not actually what my personal connection to this issue, to believing that and knowing that psilocybin is medicine, and that it should be accessible to everyone who needs it. But I think it is worth mentioning, as you did, because of course right now the possession or distribution in any way or cultivation of psilocybin is criminalized. It's not only that that the law is failing New Yorkers because of a lack of a regulatory structure and a lack of access, but to make it even worse, there are people whose lives are destroyed by criminalization, and it just shouldn't be this way and doesn't need to be this way. So that is the connection, certainly, to my committee work. But I actually first became educated about this issue because my life partner suffers from cluster headache, and I've never, thankfully, had to experience such a painful condition firsthand, but I do witness on a daily basis. He's in a cluster period right now, even the extraordinary pain that he has to go through, and how, frankly, at least in his case, conventional traditional medicine has not been successful in treating it. So he, educated me about how psilocybin and the use of other psychedelics can actually provide real relief, and even in ways that are seemingly miraculous for people who not only suffer from cluster headache, but I'm sure, I'm preaching to the choir here. I know you all are probably very well educated and maybe have firsthand experience with this, but um, it's medicine that can be used to treat many different conditions. And I think it's also relevant to it's Veterans Day, and there's an opportunity for us to change the law to make this medicine more accessible to everyone, including people who have served in the military and may be suffering as a consequence of that. We have a responsibility as a society to take care of our veterans, and people who are suffering from these conditions needlessly, because it doesn't need to be this way. And I really hope that through advocating for this legislation, we educate more people about psilocybin, that it can be, and often is, safely used, that it should not be criminalized, and in fact should be regulated and made accessible to everybody who needs it. So I'm sorry that my dogs are barking and being distracting in the background. Anyway, I'll stop there for now. Thanks, Corinne.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Salazar. Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that people should not be criminalized at their attempts to heal. I mean, that's one of our taglines that we've, lived by really for the last few years. And especially in regards to veterans, because they are often funded, their benefits and whatnot through at the federal level. Even if we do change in New York, they may still be excluded from access to this type of healing. And so, there is a lot that we have to do. And but we have to start at the state level, at the local level is really what we have to do. And I thank you so much for helping spread the word about this. And yeah, does anyone have any questions or other comments for Senator Salazar?
Oh, yeah. Do you want hands raised or just jump in?
Yeah, sure. Raise your hands, but I mean, go ahead, Corinne, if you got.
I do, and probably more than one, but for right now, it's one big one, which is, um, Senator, you probably know that I've been involved in legislative campaigns before, and I am eyeing this one from the beginning and wondering what your thoughts are on the trajectory. We've done 3 years of lobbying and educating lawmakers, and frankly, we have not run into a single one of your colleagues who is staunchly opposed to this bill. That said, I know that the bill that you and Assemblymember Paulin have bravely and wonderfully introduced faces a steep uphill battle. And that may sound contradictory to people, right? Like lawmakers love it. They even ask us where to get mushrooms, honestly. Staff has shared personal experiences. Some lawmakers have. And yet, I see a very long and bumpy road ahead of us. Can you talk a little bit about what you see happening in 2026? And then what you think, what advice do you have for us for moving this particular bill forward? One other thing I just want to say is our organization has been very clear that any positive movement on psilocybin is a good one. We are not an organization that is going to nix, a bill that is more narrow because of one that we want. We see everything as incremental. So with that said, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much, Corinne. I think I'll start with the end of your comments, actually, because I do think it's worth noting. I agree with the strategy and sort of principle of not allowing the perfect to be the enemy of the good, as long as it is compatible with another principle of the people who are are closest to the pain. You've heard this, I'm sure, many times. People who are closest to the pain or closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. And it is important that New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives and people who consume and use psilocybin as medicine are guiding my work, right, as a public servant, and so always looking to you all and being accountable to the people who actually drafted this legislation, right, and have been advocating for it for 3 years or over 3 years. But with that said, yeah, you have my full support if there's an opportunity to pass legislation that's not everything we want, but it makes meaningful progress toward the goal of people not being criminalized for seeking to heal and use medicine. This is the goal. In terms of the trajectory and road ahead of us, unfortunately, and I don't say this to like manage expectations, but just to say that the reality is it does often take many years for meaningful legislation to pass and become law in Albany. I wish it weren't this way. I'm actually feeling very hopeful in this political moment, really for two reasons, but primarily because of the results of the New York City mayoral election have, I think, expanded people's political imaginations in New York State, and challenged what the established politicians, including in Albany, believe is possible. I just returned from the annual Somos conference in Puerto Rico, where it's especially state legislators, but new politicians from all over New York and advocates go annually. And it is really an opportunity to get a sense of what people are working on and looking forward to, and what the current political climate is. And it was unlike anything I've experienced before. I feel very hopeful about things that an issue like this that should not be taboo, but is, because I don't need to tell you why. There's just, I think, insufficient understanding in the public of psilocybin as a public health issue. But nonetheless, at any rate, I think that we have an opportunity in this moment to do big things, such as, pass this bill, because the political dynamic has changed, and it feels similar for me when I was elected in 2018, and in that moment we were halfway through Trump's first term, and so not quite where we are now, but certainly now we're in Trump's second term, and that has, and I realize that this is, I don't want to be too partisan in this conversation, and respect that this is probably not, it shouldn't be a partisan conversation, but also, I'm a Democrat and I'm a member of the Democratic majority in the state Senate. And these things matter in terms of us getting things done, right? So I hope that it's not alienating to anyone for me to just speak frankly about these things. But at any rate, we came in with a new Democratic majority in 2019, and that was an extraordinary year. We were able to do things that we were told were too much. Every week we were passing progressive legislation that had been held up for years. Everything from codifying abortion rights in New York State to landmark climate legislation, you know, you name it, I could go on and on. But we have what I'm saying, all of this is to say we have an opportunity right now to do that again. And I felt that energy at this conference. And I'm feeling very confident. Like this is an opportunity for us to make major progress, if not actually make this law next year.
Yeah, I mean, I am right there with you, Senator. I mean, I do think that, like Corinne mentioned, you know, when we're talking to lawmakers, there have been absolutely zero that have, you know, sat back with their eyes or their arms crossed and said, this isn't going to happen. I mean, everyone has said, oh, well, how is this going to happen? And that was from, you know, day one in 2022. And here we are 3 years later, and next year will mark year four. And, you know, I really think that with the continued growth at, you know, all levels of media and information. I mean, you know, like, I don't know if anyone else saw this, but some social media influencer just did a 5 gram trip and had it like live tweeted, his partner live tweeted it as it was happening. And, you know, this is somebody with like millions of followers. And so, you know, it was not a scary thing. You know, he had the, you know, it was rather cute. I don't know who the guy was, but I read the whole piece on it, and it something Brian somebody, but like, you know, Oprah has talked about it. I mean, there are so many points of contact on, hey, this is a substance that can help people heal. Uh, you know, it really is criminal keeping it restricted. And that's, I mean, you know, today being Veterans Day, I was able to find numbers for 2022 as the most recent death by suicide numbers just for veterans. And 138 New Yorkers die by suicide every year. And if this can be an additional tool that we can offer our heroes to help prevent them leaving us, I mean, not doing that is a huge injustice to them and their families and their sacrifice for everything. So I mean, I really think that I think we can do it next year. I think we can.
Yeah, I believe it. You know, I believe we can do it.
Does anyone else have any questions? I mean, Rihanna, you asked about, you know, if we were looking at um, the other states, and yes, we have. We've met with advocates in all the other states and everything. Let's see, Corinne. That it is more harmful to do nothing. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what we heard from a clinician at the assembly hearing on September 30th, is that if lawmakers are looking at weighing harms, which you always have to do with every policy decision, that it's actually more harmful to do nothing. I think particularly in light of, and this group has been paying a lot of attention to news reports of bad things that happen when people use psilocybin, like the 4 hikers that got lost in the Adirondacks. You know, I mean, those stories make a more powerful case for a harm reduction approach where we educate people like your bill does. So I'm hoping that your colleagues actually buy that argument, which I think is, you know, eminently rational. But when it comes to harm reduction, sometimes people are not rational. I'm really worried about the leaders in the Assembly and the Senate. I know this might be a little bit inside baseball, but do you think that the leader of the Senate, who controls a lot of the agenda, will be a barrier for you?
I think that we should assume so. At the same time, it's very, I mean, it's wonderful to have Assemblymember Pollen as the lead assembly sponsor on this bill for many reasons. She's just a prolific legislator, but she also overlaps perhaps entirely with Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, the Senate Majority Leader, and you know they have that relationship. I know that if my assembly member, Emily Gallagher or Maritza Davila, who overlap with my district, if they introduce legislation and it's, it's important to them, and they express to me like, look, I think, for example, that it's more harmful to do nothing. And it's very important that we pass this bill. Like, I would at minimum have a rigorous conversation with them and seek to try to make it work, right? Especially in a leadership position. So for that reason, I think it's, again, so many reasons why I'm grateful that Amy Paulin is my partner on this, but it's very helpful, I believe, in terms of moving the majority leader. So that, I know that like I'm fatally optimistic, but in all things, but I think like that's a practical reason to be optimistic about the majority leader. And then in terms of the speaker, he has a long record of caring deeply about a different approach to public safety that doesn't criminalize people needlessly, and is very sensitive, and a leader in terms of defying the racial impact that criminalization has in our society. So yeah, I think we have an opportunity to reach both of them and persuade them that this is what we need to do. And I've seen them show political will on difficult issues. We passed what's referred to as medical aid in dying this past year, still awaiting the governor's signature. But I think that took courage and leadership from the leader and the speaker. Yeah, not that these issues are the same, but I perhaps you understand what I mean. Yeah, something that is treated like a controversial issue. Sorry, Pammy, I feel like you were just going to ask something.
Okay. Before I jump, I did have a quick question, and maybe this has been answered before, but considering it is Veterans Day, I'm honoring my dad tonight with the dinner. But I've recognized how little veterans are actually able to, I guess, money-wise, able to have financial stability after, say, 20 years of service and whatnot. And it's very difficult for a lot of them to get treatment, considering, the suicide rates and things like that. How viable do you think it would be um, if we were to be able to say next year to legalize psilocybin? Would it be baked into some federal funding for veterans? Because a lot of veterans still receive free health care depending on how many years they've served, and I think that would be a huge asset to helping treat depression, PTSD, and everything that goes along with that.
Yeah, I am as optimistic as I am about many things. I'm cynical generally about federal funding given in general, right, for healthcare and public health in the current political environment. However, it is all the more reason for us to act at the state level using the resources we have, including federal resources that come to the state, to provide services to veterans. And one thing that is very important to me about this bill, which cannot do exactly what you are speaking about, but something that is a very important component of it, I think, is it's seeking to make this accessible not just to people who are privileged or well-resourced. I think all of us want this medicine to be available to people, even if they have low income, as many veterans do, even if they're, working people who otherwise, without subsidy or healthcare, won't be able to access it. So I think that's really important. But I think that the burden will fall on the state to ensure that lower income New Yorkers will have access to this. And I would love to see, we've been able to, in the state budget in the past, creatively direct federal, I say creatively because sometimes when with a hostile federal administration, we got to be creative about how we direct funding in ways that the federal government might not be thrilled about. I'm thinking about, reproductive health funding. We've seen this in the state budget. So we may need to direct those funds in a creative way, but it can be done. And I certainly have the political will for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and I just want to jump in real quick. I listened to a lot of radio today, and they were all talking about veteran benefits in particular, and a lot of therapy and with all the news about health coverage premiums going up. That was one of the things that I was like, well, at least this bill builds in the capacity for people to, access psilocybin at a very low cost. And as long as we don't mandate that people have to consume it under a therapist or, and allow for more accessible facilitators. And I think that's what the beauty of this bill really, really does, is it doesn't then rely on giant piles of funding. Joe, did you
I'll
want
chime in there
to
too.
jump in there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes? Okay. Yeah, no, about the veterans thing.
Oh, I think Joe cut out again.
We heard you before, Joe, but okay, yeah, but you cut out. Maybe he's typing.
Hello?
Hopefully oh, there you go.
Hello.
You're back.
Yeah. Oh, listen. So yeah, what I say was the bill also would be able to have like a VSO, Veteran Service Organization, right? Set up a therapy program within the state and provide peer support veterans. Like that's like that would be able to uh, as that goes. I mean, I'm connected a lot of veterans that are acting in Washington DC. They do a great job. Yeah. Things, yeah, as optimistic as Senator Salazar is, which I think I'd be almost just as optimistic. If we can get something done next year, then I'd love to, love to call my friends in DC and say, hi, I got you, I beat you to the punch. But yeah, I think it'd be great if that.
Did we just
Joe,
lose Joe?
Oh, did we lose him entirely now? Oh gosh. Well, and I think what he was saying is, yeah, that this bill 5303 allows for peer support services, which, that is, I think, critical, so that people can get together and build community and help each other, get through their situations.
Yeah, it's crucial. And it's what I think makes this bill unique, at least in New York State.
Right, exactly. And it's being looked at across the country, actually. The Microdosing Collective, which is a group that helped try funding, they helped fund some of the efforts in California for the bill that Governor Newsom vetoed. They're working with us now to, put some things together and raise some funds in New York, because they see the efficacy of this bill and the breadth of its possibility for access. And it really, because for people that are suffering from cluster headaches, they don't need to go to a center to take a substance. They don't need to be monitored. They don't need a facilitator. They just need it to take their pain away. I mean, and as Joe says, you know, a lot of he says the Midwestern moms take it before they go to bed because, you know, they don't even want the effects. They just need the, you know, well, they want the effect of not having their headache anymore.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Not
listen,
necessarily.
it's medicine.
Yeah, yeah. They want certain effects that can be
Right.
achieved falling asleep. Yeah,
Right,
right.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Joe, you're back. We lost you.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, the Midwestern mom, yes, who takes it, yes, exactly. Takes the dose that's needed to treat a cluster attack on average is what they would call like a museum dose, where it's just barely perceptible. You know, like maybe the colors are a little brighter, but that's it. You don't really need much more than that to treat your cluster headache for the most part. Most people, there are some people that you know that might need a little bit longer or change the frequency or the dosing schedule that they're using. But the vast majority of people can, you know, I do it myself. I take it before I go to sleep, and, and I'm able to sleep through the night. So for me, it's just like taking my medicine, like my medication at night. I'm taking so and I go to sleep and I headache, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I think that that is actually the biggest lift I feel is actually destigmatizing the use and educating people about the effects of various doses. So it's, you know, and the people that are taking a microdose, they get no actual perceptual effect. And when you know, people that are clinging to the idea that all consumption needs to happen in a supervised setting, they don't understand that the breadth of access is, you know, covers a range of dosages. And that is something that we are still working on. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, make sure you're talking to people about how, you know, psilocybin containing mushrooms can be used, and, you know, tell your lawmaker wherever you guys are that it's important that they educate themselves, because I feel like that hearing that Amy Paulin did with the Assembly Committee on Health, you know, was 5 hours long, and it had so much information, and that is now part of the, you know, government record. It's online. Everyone can dedicate their afternoon to this hearing, and we all submitted written testimony as well, so you can, you know, listen to the experts, but also read what they wrote.
Something I would love to do, and I realize you all are already working on things like this, but is use my office's resources. My comms director is always eager to work on projects like this. Use videos, other media to tell stories of, you know, for folks who are comfortable publicly sharing how this medicine has helped in their healing, and how important it is for them, and you know how important it is for us to expand access. So yeah,
Well, Senator, we have a host of people that would love to work with your team to get their story out for sure.
awesome.
So that would be awesome.
I'll be first in line.
Yes.
Another thing that we're planning, you know, we are working on doing a fourth year of lobby day out at the Capitol in next year. But as part of that, we wanted to invite, you know, because what was it, last year or 2 years ago, we used one of the meeting rooms, and we had the team from Reconsider who filmed, professionally filmed people's stories. Kind of, we showed some stories in hearing room A or wherever it was, and then, you know, Joe and the team kind of got up and talked about it, and it was so great to get that action, and we would love to do that again with some more like kind of mushroom experts, so that people can talk about, you know, it in different ways and make people more comfortable because they understand it more. Because I feel like when people understand what they're talking about more, they're less fearful.
Yeah, and then they also feel a sort of ownership over it, right?
Right.
Yeah, and in teaching other people about it, the confidence. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
that's how I feel the more I learn. So,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, I sent our, I don't know if you get our newsletter, Senator, but Corinne Carey and this Dr. Crystal Carrington, they did an interview on a Utica radio station, 100.7 or something. And the two DJs that were talking to them, it was so amazing to listen to because they were kind of really skeptical and kind of oppositional at the beginning of the conversation. And then by minute 27, they were like, well, how do I get this? And how, how do I get involved? Oh my gosh, it was just like hearing their perception of the issue change over the course of the conversation was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And the only other thing I wanted to mention earlier that I didn't is, even on this relatively small call, there's 11 of us. We're a pretty eclectic group, right? Like a diverse range of experiences and backgrounds. And something that I think is really powerful about the campaign for this legislation is already we see support from an eclectic range of life experiences and backgrounds and identities. There's support and across the aisle, right? So political diversity, and that's really powerful. Not only is it powerful, but I think it's essential. It is how I've seen campaigns that are heavy lifts in the past succeed. So that's yes, exactly. Jake Ashby will get on this bill. I believe it.
Yeah,
Um,
he has
yeah,
been, he attended one of our, we did another screening at the Linda when the Linda was open in Albany, and he and Pat Burke shared the stage talking about it. It was, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yep. I believe it. We will get Jake Ashby on this bill.
Ah, okay.
Oh, was he opposed to medical aid in dying? I wasn't even. I didn't engage them on. Well, I won't mention medical aid in dying when I
Good.
talk to Jake Ashby about psilocybin. There's no need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I mean,
awesome.
that's what, so in the capital region, all of the lawmakers near Albany are actually on board. And even Phil Steck, when we talked to Phil, he said, well, I'm not going to sponsor the bill, but if it comes to the floor, I'd vote for it, which is a glowing, a recommend answer if you know Phil Steck.
Yeah. Yeah. The crotchety Phil Steck. I'd say to the front and the back. I love the guy, but
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean,
Tell
and
the
it is,
speaker.
but it is,
Albany.
it's when you hear people's stories and how they've been impacted by using these substances that you're like, oh, you should have access to this. I mean, Joe's story, your partner's story, anyone with cluster headaches. I mean, that's just like, why are we not allowing these folks to have access to this? It's insane.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. I met people that that have gone through amazing transformations with traumatic brain injuries and stroke and what have you. So there's so many people that could benefit from it. Um, yes, I'm very optimistic.
Yeah. Well, and so we're at 7:45. So I want to kind of keep this to an hour. I think we went almost to 9 o'clock last meeting. But if you didn't join us last meeting, I just published the meeting online, and Bianca Schnarr gave an amazing synopsis of what actually happens in your brain when you consume psilocybin containing mushrooms. Absolutely worth a watch, and the discussion afterwards was super fascinating. But for everyone who said that they would love to tell their story, if you want to send me an email at NY Psilocybin Action Committee, I'll put it in here, and that way we can get a bunch of people together, Senator, and then you can put us in touch with your ops people, and we'll see how we can work with your team to line some of these stories up.
That's awesome. I would love that.
Well, so the other things I wanted to point out, I mean, unless anyone else has any other questions for Senator Salazar? Well, seeing as it is Veterans Day, and I don't know if any of you are veterans on the call here, how do I share my screen? Share, boop, boop, boop. Okay. I wanted to just show you some resources that I would love to share. So Visionary Vets is a group in Florida that is a woman-led group, and they actually were guest speakers at one of our meetings in April of last year, and they talk about taking people out of this country in order to have ceremonies and healing sessions with veterans in particular. And then there's this group, We Honor Veterans, and there's a lot of resources specifically for veterans. But this one page here is specifically on psychedelic assisted therapy and caring for veterans. And so, you know, they're offering links and access and people to contact, you know, and here are the different groups that are pushing at a federal level. Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions, Board of Psychedelic Medicine and Therapies, American Psychedelic Practitioners Association, and then Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. So they're all helping with studies and things like that. And then this group is Vet Solutions, and you know, they're doing a very similar thing, whereas Visionary Veterans is specifically woman-led. This is a group that is for all veterans. And if you haven't seen In Waves and War, it is on Netflix, and it is a documentary that was released in 2024. And I was going to show you the trailer. It's absolutely amazing. But let me click through these other couple things. So here's Heroic Hearts. This is another veteran-centric group that has helped fund other veterans and their trips outside of the country in order to get healing. And then Reason for Hope is yet one more veteran group that is also trying to help our heroes prevent dying by suicide in particular. And so there are so many different organizations that are working towards this, and even the federal government, I think, let me just make sure I know, it was $9.8 million the Department of Defense set aside to study psychedelics for active duty troops. So that was something that was put in the military budget that they're trying to help our current soldiers manage their trauma. And I wanted to point out that if you are in a mental health crisis, dialing 988 and hitting 1 gets you access to veterans. But 988 is good for anyone to be able to call. So let's see. Can everyone hear that?
Just wondering, when is this going to start? The medicine brings out things it wants you to see, and you don't know why. I have a lot of stuff to work through. Navy SEAL training is one of the most demanding things on the planet.
It was like being drafted to one of the Patriots. He was everything I ever wanted.
The worse the place was, the more we wanted to go.
It felt like Russian roulette. Every time he would leave, he may not come home.
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
We got discovered.
I can't fire back because I can't see anybody.
I thought my arm was gone. And I can't feel anything.
Bullet and bullets spewed all over that thing. Jeez.
You go overseas and you see it after your tomb you kill. We're not supposed to leave them.
I was just begging, can you please help him?
The TBI with the memory loss, I meet someone, I don't know what your name is. Okay.
He was doing all the things he was told to do, and he was actually getting worse. I got his medical records. I completely changed my approach. Psychedelic medicines proved to be effective, but both are illegal in the United States. So Marcus would have to travel to Mexico.
If you love your wife, you'll go to Mexico and do psychedelics.
All the body armor you put on, that all goes away. My brothers, my teammates, you deserve to be happy and live a good life. This is just one of those points in medicine where I've got to have the courage to jump.
That medicine takes you right to the crust and you fall off.
We get into this line of work because we feel like it's who we are. Who the hell am I now?
So that is a very powerful documentary that is now viewable on Netflix. Let's see. How do I get back to Zoom? Stop sharing. Okay. And yeah, just a couple other things coming up. So we do have another fundraising dinner with the Microdosing Collective in December. So we'll be down in the city, and we are planning on a few other kind of city actions. So if you are down in the city and want to be involved a little bit more, please, stay dialed in. And then I think we just have to work with Amy Pollin's team, Corinne, is that correct, to get a day for our lobby day for next year? Oh, hold on.
We have to wait for the legislative calendar to come out. I mean, it's tough. We could put our finger on a date, and then we'll just have to, adjust if the calendar changes.
Sure.
But generally, the legislative calendar doesn't come out until after the Senate and Assembly retreats, which is in early December. Isn't that right, Senator? Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Both the Assembly and the Senate retreats are in the first week and a half of December.
Wonderful. Well, I have a feeling that our next lobby day is going to have a much bigger impact because of the amount of people that have really gotten on board this year alone. And yeah, it's going to be 2026 is going to be a very educational and an amazing year, no matter what happens.
I agree.
Hannah?
Yeah, I'm curious what are the best ways for me to plug in. You mentioned there's some city events, and if there's anything I can do in donating my time or ways to help, would love to know what the different volunteering opportunities are.
Sure. I mean, for now, the volunteering for the most part is happening at events, so kind of helping coordinate things. I feel like after this fundraiser on December 11th, we'll have a better idea on what we need to produce in order to make the most impact next year, and whether we're going to dedicate some resources to kind of creating some educational materials and then kind of sharing them. But the biggest thing that you can do, even just as an individual anywhere, is just talk to your friends and relatives about this and share, encourage other people to share their stories. And we have a link on our website. Let me just put www.nymha.com. So if you go to our website, there's one of the pages gives you a sample letter and then a link to find your legislator. And so sending, obviously making it personalized if you want, and sending that to your legislator will also go a long way, because I mean, we've heard again and again that, if a lawmaker hears from 20 constituents or so, that means it's a hot button issue. That means 20 people, only 20 people need to comment on an issue to help make an impact. That's not a lot of people. And we're 11 right now on this call.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And if it's okay, I will also join in for the next call.
Absolutely, yeah, always, yeah. And if you didn't sign up for our newsletter, I think you can do that on the NYMHA thing, and then that will inform people about the actions that are happening, and how to, when we need boots on the ground, or fingers at keyboards, or whatever we need in the future. Thanks so much, Anna. All right, well, if no one else has any other questions, again, Senator Salazar, Julia, thank you so much for joining us. Our conversation was absolutely amazing, and I look forward to working with your team in the future.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Looking forward to working more together and winning this campaign, making this bill law. Thanks for tolerating my dogs, who are now lounging behind me on the couch. And hope everyone stays warm and has a great evening.
Okay, and thanks for everyone else for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Bye.